Well, hello, and thank you for joining me today. In today's session, we're going to be talking about how to supercharge your procedure volume by getting your internet marketing right. Before we get started, though, let me ask you a couple of quick questions. Have you ever wondered how you're going to fill the holes in your calendar each month? Or thought to yourself, how do you stop wasting time on patients who don't value your time or can't afford your services? And finally, do you ever worry about how to scale your practice to get to the next level by attracting more high value patients? If any of these concerns sound familiar, I understand completely. It's normal. You're an eye surgeon. Although you're probably one of the most highly educated people on the planet, there probably wasn't a lot of marketing and sales courses taught while you were in medical school. You were trained to improve vision outcomes for your patients, not learn digital marketing. No worries, though. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm your host, Eric Barbour. I'm a Duke MBA grad and founder of Refractive Surgery Marketing, the premier marketing agency focused exclusively on generating new laser refractive surgery patients for ophthalmologists each month. And in this video, what I want to do is walk you through a proven process on how to attract new high-value patients consistently, month in and month out for your clinic. Now, who is this presentation for? My guess is that you're here right now because you're either an ophthalmologist looking to grow your practice, maybe you're a practice manager, or perhaps you're a marketing manager, and you believe that growing your practice shouldn't last a lifetime. Well, there's good news. Now, what I found is that in order to develop a successful, thriving practice, there's really only three things you need to get right. You have to be successful at attracting the right kind of leads. You need to fine-tune your efforts so that you consistently convert a significant portion of these leads into consultations or patients who are actually sitting in your chair. And finally, you need to deliver an exceptional experience to patients that are in your care, whether it be during consultation, during a surgery, so that they are eagerly ready to refer their friends and recommend you to others. So you have to put systems and procedures in place to allow for this. And when you get these three things right, you can build a practice that generates the type of income you desire. You can develop the freedom to spend more time on the things you enjoy, and you can develop impact, right? Because you're able to develop a practice that your team enjoys coming to each day, and you're able to help more patients achieve better outcomes, which ultimately means that you have a practice that you can scale. So that's exactly what we're going to cover in today's session. What I want to do is walk you through a proven process of what you need to do to attract patients consistently, month in and month out for your practice. I'm going to cover the biggest challenges facing your practice, the things you need to consistently do well to drive the success of your practice, and a simple system or blueprint that you can follow that generates more leads, books more consultations, and drives more revenue. So here's a challenge that I find most practices face. Getting laser refractive surgery is a life-altering procedure and something that most people don't take lightly. And for most, it's something that they're only going to do once, which is great for them. I mean, modern medicine is fantastic. However, for you, it presents the challenge of always having to book new patients to keep your calendar full week after week. And a lot of times, unfortunately, you're unclear on what marketing tactics to focus on from day to day in order to make this happen. I mean, should you focus on SEO? Should you be running pay-per-click campaigns? Maybe social media is the answer. How about ramping up the number of virtual consultations you do? I mean, there's a whole host of things you could potentially do to grow your clinic, but oftentimes there are so many options that you're not sure what to do day to day, right? And that can create confusion, which can create a real lack of momentum. Because oftentimes, or there's a phrase that we hear when you're confused, a confused mind says no. Sometimes when there are too many options, you end up doing nothing because you aren't sure which way to turn. Ultimately, this can lead to an empty calendar. And if your calendar is empty or your surgery volume is inconsistent, you aren't going to be able to hit your revenue targets and you are going to struggle. Look, running your practice is tough enough as it is, but struggling to keep your calendar full can lead to a lot of stress, which unchecked can affect you, your family, your team, and unfortunately, this can bleed over into your patient interactions as well. So these are the challenges. But the good news is there's an opportunity, because with the right plan, you can put some simple things in place with specific activities that should be happening on an ongoing basis to solve for this. And when you get this right, you'll have leads flowing in on a consistent basis like clockwork. You'll have new people raising their hand day in and day out, week in and week out. So at the end of the day, what you really need is a system with a clear plan that covers very specific activities that should be happening on an ongoing basis, with clarity about what should be happening daily, weekly, monthly. This way you can measure it, right? And that way you'll know whether or not the things that you're doing are effective, and this will help you consistently grow. This also allows you to put some predictable processes in place, right? And when you have predictable processes in place, that can lead to even more consistency, right? For driving plenty of qualified consultations with people who value your service, are interested in what you have to say, and are ready to move forward. This gives you peace of mind because your revenue becomes more predictable. No more lumpy revenue because, you've got a lot of referrals this month, or this particular campaign was great this month, but then the next month you're kind of back into a trough again, right? You want to have smooth, predictable revenue that gives you peace of mind, but also, at some point, if you're gonna sell your practice, right? If you have consistent revenue streams, that's just another or an increase in the multiple that you'll potentially be able to sell your practice for. So I want to dive into some simple keys on this, because what we're looking to solve for today is making sure you have a cohesive system in place that gives you everything you need to grow and scale your clinic consistently. So what I'm going to unpack today is a fully integrated marketing system that I cover in our new book, Refractive Surgery Marketing: How to Supercharge Your Procedure Volume by Getting Your Internet Marketing Right. You can grab a copy on Amazon or reach out to me directly, and I'll be more than happy to send a copy your way. But let's go through each one of these steps one by one. The first piece of the puzzle is having a website that converts. Now, you may think that as a digital marketer, my main focus is making sure your website ranks #1 in the search rankings, or that your site is aesthetically pleasing. But while ranking is definitely important, focusing only on rankings is a recipe for failure. You can have the top rated listing, have tons of visitors coming to your website on a regular basis, but if your website doesn't convert those visitors into people that are either calling your practice or booking appointments, then what's the point? I mean, if you aren't getting calls or you're not getting as many patients as you should, then you're simply leaving money on the table. So what does having a website built to convert mean? A conversion optimized website is one that is designed to encourage website visitors to take a desired action. For our purposes, that desired action is either calling your practice directly to book an appointment, or perhaps scheduling an appointment online with an online scheduling tool on your website, right? But there is absolutely nothing wrong with having a website that looks good and that you're proud of. But ultimately, the goal for your website should be to convert visitors and drive new patient growth. That's it. That's the bottom line. That's what your website needs to be focused on. And here's why this is important. We find that no matter what you're doing from a marketing perspective, no matter if someone finds you by searching online, no matter whether or not they clicked on your ads, no matter if someone found you because one of their friends referred them or referred you to them, or maybe you're running some print ads somewhere, who knows? But whatever the case may be, ultimately, new patients are going to visit your website online to check you out. And when they do, they're going to make a split-second decision between investigating further or moving on to another provider. So think of your website as your hub, and you need to make sure you nail it in terms of making sure that it's firing on all cylinders and converting visitors into leads and new patients at the highest level. The next piece of the puzzle is search engine optimization. Now, many of you have heard of SEO before, but getting your practice listed in the organic or non-paid sections of the search engine results comes down to two core factors. The first is having the proper on-page optimization so Google knows what you do in the general area you serve, right? This is mainly focused on having the right keywords. And the second piece is creating enough authority and transparency so that Google ranks you on page 1 rather than page 2, 3, or 10 where nobody's going to find you for the specific keywords your ideal patients are entering into Google. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time digging into all the technical details of SEO, but here's a good chart I pulled from Moz that gives you some insight of all the different things or different aspects that go into SEO. But the bottom line is, can people find you when they type in keywords that they're searching for, like, whether it be LASIK versus smile, or how much does LASIK cost, or LASIK recovery time, right? Those are keywords that people are typing into Google, which means they're beginning to explore the possibility of having refractive surgery. So you need to make sure that your website is ranking for those keywords. The next piece of the equation is getting ranked in the Google Maps section of the search engine results pages. Primarily, this is driven by your Google My Business listing. So the first thing you want to do is claim and optimize your Google My Business listing. The next step is making sure you have a consistent NAP. This NAP refers to name, address, and phone number. You want to make sure that this is consistent across the web so that Google feels confident that you're a legitimate organization, that you're located in the place that you have listed online, and that you serve the market you claim to serve. You'd be surprised at the number of people who are trying to rank in markets that they don't have a physical location in. They're trying to game the system. So the more you get this stuff correct, the better your chance of ranking in the markets that you do operate in. The next piece of the puzzle is the number of citations or web references of your company's name, address, and profile. This is one of the things Google really emphasizes. And finally, the other critical element of getting ranked in the map listings is your online reviews. We find that all other things being equal, the practices that have the most authentic, real reviews from their patients tend to rank the best. We'll dive into this a little more, but just always keep that in mind. I mean, if there are 100 refractive surgeons in your city and Google wants to determine who should be in the number 1 spot versus who should be in 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, there are algorithms that are scanning the web, and they're looking for all of these authority signals or symbols, which ultimately will point to whether or not that practice is authentic or not. And if you have these 4 factors working in your favor, you will significantly improve the probability of ranking on page 1 of Google Maps in your market, or not necessarily page 1, actually ranking in Google Maps, so that you're one of those first 3 listings that people see when they're searching online. The next step is leveraging pay-per-click campaigns. Now, both organic SEO and local SEO, or ranking into Google Maps, are 2 of the best strategies to use when trying to grow traffic. But unfortunately, your SEO efforts can take some time to show results. So if someone's calling you up telling you they can get you page 1 overnight, don't believe them. SEO is something that requires a lot of energy and effort to get the ball rolling, but once it works, it's fantastic. By contrast, when you need results immediately, pay-per-click is incredibly effective. I'm serious about that. If you've optimized your PPC advertising campaigns correctly, you can start to see new patient opportunities almost immediately. Here's the best part though. When people go to Google, they are specifically looking for something or searching for the answer to solve a question. I gave you the example earlier of someone who may be trying to understand what's the difference between LASIK versus smile, right? They're specifically interested in some type of some type of refractive surgery, and so they want to understand their options. So in other words, they have intent, and they are literally telling you what they want to buy by typing in the keywords about the services you offer. That's why Google Ads are so powerful and one of the best digital marketing tactics available. Here's why this is important. With our clients, our goal is world domination, right? Right. There are three areas of the search engine results pages. There are your paid ads on the top, which PPC focuses on. There's your Google Maps listings in the middle, which is primarily driven by your Google My Business listing or in local SEO. And then there are organic results that appear below the Google Maps, and those are driven by your SEO efforts, right? Our goal is to dominate all of those sections. We want to be ranked at the top of the PPC listings. We want to make sure our clients are ranked in the Google Maps, and we also want to make sure our clients are ranked in the organic listings as well, right? Like that old saying from MasterCard, right? We want to make sure our clients are everywhere you want to be. We want to rank in all of those categories to make sure that you have the best opportunity to attract the appropriate clicks from the right type of clients, because that's going to fill your funnel, which is going to drive your surgery calendar, which is going to drive your revenue. All right, so we're about halfway through the model. We've made sure that our website is built to convert. We have our SEO strategies in place, and we're ranking in the Google Maps, and our PPC campaigns are flooding our funnels with new patient leads. The next step is retargeting and nurturing the new patient leads we're generating. And this is where I find that most people struggle. I mean, most people know they need a website, and generating patients through SEO and Google Ads is something they're pretty familiar with. But what happens to all those leads that you're able to generate? How many times are you touching them? Do you have a system in place that answers their questions and builds trust over time? Or are those leads, or a significant portion of those leads, simply falling through the cracks? If every lead you were able to generate was guaranteed to turn into a new patient, your life would be much easier, wouldn't it? Well, unfortunately, this is not our reality. Visitors to your site don't become patients overnight. They require time to educate themselves and develop trust before moving forward. So the important thing to understand is that generating new patient leads is only the beginning. In order for those leads to develop into a new patient that is actually sitting in your chair, considerable care must be taken to nurture those leads and remain engaged with them as they move down the pipeline or the funnel towards purchase. Unfortunately, this lead nurturing piece, is often neglected by many practices, and it's a clear lost opportunity. You know, some practices may try to touch patients one time, maybe twice, but unfortunately, that's it. Retargeting those patients, though, is how you can nurture and convert a greater portion of, what I like to call research now, contact later prospects into new patients. Basically, we need to make sure we stay in front of all the people that were interested in what we have to offer, but for whatever reason, didn't immediately call or schedule an appointment. I mean, if you don't do this, and there's some real simple ways to do this, and a lot of it's enabled by technology, it's like having a leaky bucket that you're trying to fill, right? Because you're spending so much money to fill it with quality leads, but they're flowing out the bottom during the process, right? If we can plug those leaks, right, our ROI for our marketing investments just absolutely goes through the roof. The next step is making sure your reputation online is world-class. Studies show that 84% of patients use online reviews to evaluate physicians. And for most people, this is the first step they take. They are immediately going online to find a physician close to them, and the reviews are the first thing that they're looking at. So if your online reputation isn't stellar, it's likely going to impact the growth of your practice. In fact, a single negative review can dissuade a potential patient from visiting your practice. So you need to put the tools and systems in place that make getting reviews from your patients effortless. And you need to take it a step further by integrating them, the reviews you are able to get with your online presence, so that they're prominently displayed on your website and they become a marketing advantage. So if you have great reviews, why not put that information right there on your website so that patients can see it, so that your website becomes even stickier and that they need to look no further than the information that's right in front of them. And what I find is that a lot of people struggle with getting reviews. They wonder if there's this magical secret sauce, but I always tell them, just ask, right? If your patients are happy with you, right, people are generally more than willing to reciprocate the fact that you gave them fantastic service, you made them feel welcome, you made them feel like you understood them, and you were concerned about them after the procedure. They're generally going to be more than happy to give you a review. But in order for this to happen, you have to make asking for reviews a part of your culture, right? And this is easy to do, right? All you've got to do is maybe a couple of your team meetings, your staff meetings, just practice it. Practice makes perfect. If you practice it over and over, it'll become part of your culture almost overnight. Step number 7, right, is social media management. And with 72% of adults actively using social media and 47% of internet users making health-related searches, social media marketing is more important than ever to healthcare providers. Now, I know some of you are maybe skeptical of social media, but there are many ways to use social media in your practice, including, promoting awareness of, maybe you're having a webinar, or maybe you're promoting some type of offer. Social media is fantastic for encouraging patient engagement. And also, given, the climate that we're in, social media is also fantastic for sharing accurate health messaging, as well as combating misinformation that may be out there. Now, you may be considering whether or not social media is right for your practice, but we'll take the guesswork out of all of it and guide you in determining which networks make sense and what type of content you should be posting. And finally, the next thing that we want to do in the model is make sure that you know what your key performance indicators are and that you're tracking them so that you can see what works and what doesn't. And here are a few things that you want to track. The first is call tracking. If you're not call tracking today, you are missing the boat, right? You need to know how many calls are coming in and from what channel those calls are being generated by, right? So, for example, how many calls came in from your SEO efforts? How many came in from your pay-per-click efforts? How many came in from the other things you do? That way you can allocate capital accordingly because you will be able to determine attribution of effort. The second thing you need to know is what your average cost per lead is, or your average cost per call generated. I find that most people don't know these metrics. And so if you don't know what your average cost per lead is, then there's no way you can figure out if you're on track or off track for your budget, because you'll need to know how many leads you need to hit based on how much you're spending each month, right? And this may mean you're not aligned with your target. So you need to have some type of mechanism in place, preferably a dashboard that automatically populates with this data so you can view it whenever you like. And that's one of the things that we include with this model. And if there's one thing I know to be true, it's what gets measured gets done. And if you have this dashboard, right, and you can measure what you're doing, your efforts, your marketing efforts will improve without question. All right, that was a lot of information. But what is the end result when you get all of this right and you implement all of these steps in your practice? You'll no longer be stuck spending hours searching the internet for ideas on how to fill your calendar, right? Because you'll have a pipeline of high-value patients that are filling your funnel and are ready to move forward. So let me ask you this. How would it feel if you were able to put your marketing on autopilot? What if you had a constant flow of dream patients waiting to see you, ready to agree to the procedure that makes the most sense? Do you think you could finally relax because you look at your bottom line and know that your practice is profitable, it's growing, and it's on track? Well, this can be your practice when we install the refractive revenue system. So here's the bottom line. Look, I get it. Most of you are already making a big investment in marketing, and I know you've probably tried several things already. Over the years, maybe you've tried working with a local provider, maybe you've worked with one of the big generalist marketing firms, or maybe you have a family member who built your website, or they're savvy with SEO. But what I'm hearing when I'm talking to practices is that oftentimes you're frustrated because you simply aren't generating the type of ROI you expect. You're spending all this money on SEO, pay-per-click, social media, radio ads, print ads, and there just isn't a great return on your investment. Well, one thing that I've found over my career is that the quickest way to success is to model someone that is already having success, which is why I like this quote from Tony Robinson, and it reads, "If you want to be successful, find someone who has already achieved the type of results you want, copy what they do, and you will achieve the same results." This is what I call cracking the code, really simplifying what you need to do and what sequence they should be done in. So to that end, we've built a complete system that leaves no stone unturned and covers everything you need to do in order to win online and grow your practice. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of different ways to approach this, but it's your choice. There's an easy way and a hard way to do this. You could spend hours and hours trying to figure out all this stuff on your own. You could spend your time going through YouTube, watching a ton of videos, trying to connect the dots, maybe buying a couple of courses from the gurus. Maybe you'll pick up a couple of good tips here and there, or you can choose the easy way, which is to find someone who has a proven model, someone who will install a complete turnkey system in your practice specifically designed to do one thing: get you more patients walking through the door for refractive surgery. So if that sounds interesting to you, I invite you to hit the link below and apply now. Although we would love to serve everyone, one thing that we found is that we aren't a good fit for everyone, and everyone isn't a good fit for us. So by applying, it'll help us determine, it'll help you determine, the better the fit on the front end, and the closer our goals will be aligned, right? And this will make sure that, your results and satisfaction will be in line with your expectations on the back end. So once we get on a call, we'll run through a quick 15 to 30 minute discovery session at a time that works for you, and we'll see if there's an opportunity for us to work together. So thank you for joining us. That's it for now. But if there's one key takeaway that I'd like to leave you with, is that if you're interested in attracting more leads, booking more consultations, and driving more revenue, I look forward to the opportunity to partner with you and your team. Thanks again for joining me. I'll talk to you on the other side.